Hello everyone, I'm back with my May wrap up. So in May I read 5 books and honestly I liked a lot of them. One of them was fine, but I feel like I kind of knew that it was only going to be fine when I started it, so like wasn't surprising, so it really wasn't that big of like a disappointment. So the first book that I picked up and finished in the month of May this year was Luster by Raven Leilani. So I feel like I waited a pretty long time for my hold to come in from the library for this book. So I finally got it and I read it and I rated it 4.5 stars. To be quite honest, I don't know if I really know what was holding it back from getting a 5-star. I think just the writing wasn't always the most believable, or like the story wasn't. It was kind of like, I feel like we lucked into some of the situations happening the way they did instead of it being a more like realistic, like I could see this happening. And I guess I don't need all my fiction to be realistic because it's fiction for a reason, but also I feel like the way this author wrote, I feel like she wanted you to think that it was realistic and like almost like you could be her, like a young girl living in New York City just trying to like make it by. And there's just certain things about the story were just not believable, but I loved the writing. Like I loved the writing so much. It was so sharp and like funny but dark and like very clever, I'd say. And I felt like we moved very quickly at times, but also like pretty slow also, which is like kind of strange, but I don't know, I love the writing style. Like I definitely think if Raven Leilani ever comes out with anything else, like I would totally pick it up in a heartbeat. Like I was so excited to read this and I definitely liked it, but yeah, like I said, just certain plot points I was like, I just don't feel like this is what I wanted to happen, and not because I wanted something like good to happen to our character. I just like didn't like that. I felt like, I don't want to say the author was being lazy with certain plot points she chose, but that's kind of how it felt. I mean, do I even want to tell you like really like the story? I don't know. It's just this young girl living in New York City. I think she's like an artist. She's really poor. She ends up being with this guy who's married. She ends up like meeting the wife. She moves into their house and she hangs out with their daughter. Like I don't know, it's very odd but like interesting. So I definitely think though what saved it for me was the writing style and not really the plot or the characters, if that makes sense. Oh, okay. So the next book I finished in the month of May was Hidden Valley Road: Inside the Mind of an American Family by Robert Kolker, and I gave this 5 stars. I love this nonfiction so freaking much. So much. It truly brought me back to why in college I felt like I almost only read nonfiction. Like it just truly like brought it home for me. Like that psychology, like social issue type nonfiction is totally just like right up my alley, and I loved every minute of it. And the author did an amazing job turning a nonfiction just story, whatever, but making it read like it was fiction sometimes. Like he was so good at telling a story, whereas sometimes I feel like nonfiction writers, like the topic is super interesting, but the author tells it in a very like fact-based way that it's not as like fun to read. Like it's still interesting obviously if you like the topic, but I feel like this nonfiction is one that most people could pick up and like just because the way it's written, even if you didn't care about like mental health specifically within like families and like how certain things are genetically passed on. Let me tell you what it's about. So there was this family and they started having babies I think in like the 50s. They ended up having 12 children, and 10 of those children were boys and the last 2 were girls, and 6 of the boys were diagnosed with schizophrenia throughout their lifetime. They were all, and I think different brothers were diagnosed with like different types of like psychosis and like schizophrenic type behavior. Some of them I think might have only been diagnosed with like bipolar, but with like schizophrenic tendencies type things. I don't know, but like it was just super interesting because especially like at that time, like mental health and mental illness was definitely more of a hidden topic. Not as many people were as open to learning more and wanting to help. It was more of a, I don't want to share what my family is going through because it'll make me look crazy and it'll make me look bad and it'll make me look not good enough to like live in society, and like I don't look like a perfect mom because my family's not this picture perfect family, and obviously that's really sad. So I'm pretty sure the author worked really closely with the youngest daughter to learn the facts and share the story and all of that type of stuff. I don't know, it was just like super interesting, and I felt like I flew through it. So if you are looking to get into more nonfiction and you think that mental health and stuff is something that you are up to reading about, I totally recommend this book. Like, it was amazing. The third book I finished in the month of May was Open Water by Caleb Azumah Nelson. Where do I even start? Like, it was the most beautiful writing I've read in such a long time. I felt so connected to the characters. I finished it within like 2 days. I know it's like really short, so like that's not saying a ton, but like, oh my god, like I loved every minute of it. I cried at the end, and the ending was even what I wanted it to be, and I cried just because I was so like emotionally connected to the characters and the writing and just like all of it. And I don't even know, like it was beautiful writing. Beautiful. Like, I have to read everything that this author comes out with. Like, beautiful. So we're following two black artists living in London. So the guy is more like a photographer and the girl is a dancer, and they basically just kind of like come in and out and in and out of each other's lives, sort of, you know, where they're like accepting that they're in love, and then like for a little bit they don't talk, or they're just friends, or whatever it is, and then they'll come back together. And like, oh my god, I don't know, it just like tore my little soul up. And I told you it even ended the way I wanted it to, and I still just was like, by the end of the book, like it was amazing. Like the writing was stunning. Like I'm not even doing it justice by like talking about it. Like it was so beautiful, and I just want and need everybody to read it and recommend it to everybody else that they know, because it was just so beautiful. Like just the way that the author could describe certain feelings was just insane to me. And then even the way that he described some of the most boring everyday items or actions, I was like, I didn't know that like getting your hair cut was something beautiful. I didn't know that like walking down the street could be this big beautiful momentous moment of just crazy. I don't know, I just like, I know that like before I read it I heard that it was very beautiful writing, but like so many people say that about so many different things that I was like, yeah, whatever, like I'm sure it is, but like whatever. Like, I need everybody to read it and love it and tell me how much you love it. The fourth book I read this month, could have done without. Eleanor Oliphant's Completely Fine. I gave it 3 stars. I truly do not understand why in like 2017, 2018, this was such a popular book. I truly just did not care a whole lot. It took me, I feel like, the whole month to get through. Like, it was just not my thing. I was just so bored, but I'm happy I got to it because I felt like I kept putting on my TBR because my friend gave it to me for Christmas because her and her mom both really liked it, but it was just like not what I'm into anymore. I think if I would have read this in like high school, I think I would have liked it more. I was just like, it wasn't doing enough for me. It was just kind of boring. Like, it wasn't like pushing any limits, like plot wise or writing wise or character. Like, there was just nothing for me to like really grasp onto. Like, it was a sad story. Like, it was sad following her, but it was like that sort of like sad, lighthearted, very like, this is about to sound so mean to everyone who loves this book, but very like middle-aged woman book club book is kind of like the vibes of this, is how I felt. And it was, I don't know, it was a 3-star. It was fine, wasn't bad, wouldn't recommend it, but wouldn't say like you shouldn't read it, just like there's so many other things to read, why would you pick this up kind of thing. And we're following a woman who grew up with a pretty traumatic childhood. Like, her mom killed her younger sister and tried to kill her by like burning the house down, but like she got out and she was like in the system her whole life. But like, we don't learn like tons about that. Like, I think it would have been more interesting if we would have like followed her throughout her life or something like that, but like, no. And I think she's like autistic is what some people have told me and what I've read, but again, I don't know if they ever mentioned that in the story. But like, she's definitely very lonely and struggles in social situations. She doesn't understand social cues very well and doesn't have a lot of people in her life, and so it's just so sad. But then like, of course, like, she needs a friend, and like they're really nice to each other, and then they like sort of fall in love, kind of. Like, it's just like that kind of thing where it's like, I don't want to say typical or expected, but it was typical and expected. And like I said, it just like didn't push any boundaries like in any way for me. Like, it was nothing new, and I know that just because it's nothing new doesn't mean that it's like not worth people's time. I just feel like even in that category of like middle-aged mom book club like book, I feel like there's so many other things that should be picked over this. But I mean, it was written in 2017, so like maybe you know, maybe that was cool at the times. Like, I just cannot believe the reviews when I went through them. Like, I cannot believe how many people rated it like 4 and 5 stars. I was like, what did you guys read? Because like, I don't feel like I read the same thing. And like I said, it wasn't bad, just wasn't anything that stood out. Like, I feel like this is a book that I'll forget that I've read one day because it was just so, just nothing. Oh my gosh, the last book that I finished in the month of May was The House in the Swirling Sea by TJ Klune, and I gave it 5 stars. Let me just preface this. So I heard over the last few days that there's a little bit of controversy surrounding him as an author and kind of like his inspiration to this book, and about how, I think he said in an interview or something somewhere, that he kind of got inspiration from like residential schools, and like how some people don't feel like he gave people enough recognition, or that it's almost like appropriation, not inspiration. And to be quite honest, I am not knowledgeable enough or like educated enough on this topic to really talk about it, but I will say that I really liked books like Whoa, her live stream about the topic. I don't really know if she really came to any like conclusion by the end of it. I just thought it was like a really good place to kind of like hear opinions from all sides. So I would say if you're interested in that at all, like, go check out that live stream, because I'm pretty sure she like posts them like after she does them. So yeah, I really enjoyed listening in on that and reading the chat and all that kind of thing. But besides that, I love this book so much, and I'm so surprised. And I know that sounds insane because I truly don't know if I've really heard like a bad thing about this book, but yeah, I don't know. I was like, oh, it's kind of like a fantasy, or oh, there's like magic and it seems kind of like cutesy magic. I was kind of like, I felt like it was going to be kind of boring, but I feel like that was like what I wanted in May. Like, I just wanted to like be happy and like unbothered. And like, this hit home in a way that I just didn't realize it was gonna. Like, I cried at the end. I was like, it's just very like found family everyone's welcome. Just be kind and understand that not everybody has the same experiences as you, and like there's a place for everybody in the world. And even if you don't feel like you know where that is or who that's with right now, like you will figure it out one day, and like don't give up hope. Like it was just very like hope filled. I was like, okay, like okay. Which I think is so funny because I felt like this was supposed to be like my happy book of the month. And I don't know if I would really categorize it as happy. Like it truly was. Like it ended the way I liked and the way I wanted, and I was like rooting for everyone. But it was also about like such big topics that I was like, can I say this is happy? Because some of these subjects are just not the happiest to think about, but like everything kind of went in a way that I liked. I don't know, it was just very like cutesy magic. Like it was just kind of cute. So like, let me just tell you what it's about. So there's this government department called the Department of like Magical Youth or something like that. And this world is basically like regular world, but there's also like magical people and magical creatures living in it and like with people and whatever. And of course, because they're magical, they're banished, they're bad, they're terrible and scary, and we're not even gonna get to know them. We're just gonna say that they're all these things, and we're gonna teach our kids that these magic beings are all these things. And so like we're just gonna keep passing down these ideas that are wrong. And this Department of Magical Youth will send people to these magical orphanages, magical homes for magical kids who don't necessarily have like a biological family to like be with and live with and whatever. And so there's like a gnome, there's a bird. I felt like there was like a monkey or some sort of like octopusy type thing. I thought there was a kid who could turn into a dog, or he does when he gets like angry or scared or nervous or something like that. And the head of the household is a phoenix, I believe. I don't know, it was just very interesting. So like they always send like a worker to these homes to basically like just reevaluate and kind of see like, should these homes stay open? Like, are the kids being treated well? Are they like learning in school? Are they happy? You know, like that kind of thing. He's basically a social worker, is kind of like the vibe. And he gets there, and this is some like super special orphanages because they have like the Antichrist and all of these other magical, super rare magical like beings there. And so he like goes in like being very nervous and very like on his toes because of what he's heard before going into it. And whatever, he ends up like falling in love with the kids. He really likes the headmaster, I don't know if that's what they call him, but the headmaster of like the house, and like he finds his family. And I was just like, okay, like okay. I don't know. I will say though that after it, I need another one. I do, and I did not expect that at all. I thought it was gonna wrap up like really just nicely, and like I was gonna be okay with it, and that's all. But like I really want another one. If you've read this, you know that it ends with them finding out about a new kid, just a new magical being that they found, and like this kid needs a home, and he's a yeti. And I was just like, a yeti? Like, oh my god, who? What? Where? How is he gonna fit in? And I'm really interested in the idea of the yeti, and how are we, now that we've helped us and helped our kids stay safe and helped our home stay open, how are we going to help other magical kids throughout this world? Like that is kind of like where I'm at. Like I want another one that's more like big picture like that. So we'll see if we get one. I saw that he has another book coming out, I think in October. I don't know, it's like this fall or like late summer, and I'm honestly thinking about getting it, which again, it seems like a pretty like cutesy magical book, but I'm not sure if it's something that I would like. But I didn't think I would like this one very much, so I just don't feel like I should like not pick it up just because it's fantasy, magic, whatever, and I'm like, oh, it's not my thing. It's like, obviously sometimes it is, or you wouldn't like this that much. I don't know. But yes, those are all the books that I read in the month of May. I hope you liked the video. If you've read any of these and liked any of them, please let me know down below. If there are any books based on the books that I liked, that I talked about today, that you think are similar and you think I would like them, please also comment those down below. I don't know. I'm happy you watched my video, and I hope to see you next one. Bye, guys.